Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hello, Mayor Akins. How are you?
I'm good, Emily. How you doing?
Very good, thank you.
She said in her most professional voice, today's kind of a hard day, if I'm honest.
Well, today's a good day for me.
Oh, wonderful. Why is that?
That's Rosh Hashanah, second day of Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, that's right. I am very sorry.
That's okay.
Apologies.
Right.
My dad and my grandmother are right now shaking a fist at me for that.
Well,
for that amnesia in the moment. Just I was referring to the ash raining down on us and the anniversary of Almeida.
yeah, that is a really something. How bad is it there? I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, man.
With my family.
Oh, wonderful for you. It's bad. It's bad, Emily.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, there's ash everywhere. My car was, the whole windshield was covered in it. And it's very, very hot, kind of like muggy, and people are feeling funky.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's what's up.
Ugh.
Yeah, if I was in the city, I'd probably be more in your frame of mind.
Yeah.
Well, wish I was there. Hey, Miss Julie.
Hey there.
You look beautiful as always.
Oh, that is kind.
It's been straight up real. You look great.
Thanks. It's been, I feel like all the smoke, everything is just, I'm glad my outside doesn't match my inside. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Emily and I were just talking about that. Emily gets to be in San Francisco for the holiday, and we're here, and I was explaining the smoke and the ash, and yeah, the lack of deep breaths. But I mean, I just am going, well, here's the good news. I always thought I was a real wimp, and now I'm kind of patting myself on the back going, look at me, still here. How about that?
Yes, there's a lot of learning that has come from the past year or so.
It's so true. It's so true. I wrote this little thing on Facebook about this day last year. I was crying my eyes out at Asante because they were telling us they were going to evacuate the hospital.
Right. I remember those posts of yours.
It was like, I thought I was in it's so naive to say this, but I felt like I was in a war zone. And I'm like, this hospital is like being busted down, and they're talking about bringing in choppers to get people out. And I'm seeing this wall of flames, and it's loud. And my husband can't walk or really take care of himself at all. And he's just saying, well, I'm not going. That's what I have. It was so scary. I mean, everybody's got their moments, though. I mean, at least I didn't lose my house or any of that. But we'll have our trauma around this day, I'm sure.
Yeah. I was just actually right before this on another call with the Unitarian Universalist Church, and people were just having kind of a talk about things that they'd gone through that day. And, I just want to try to do as much online to alert people as possible. Because at the time I was a moderator for what was Ashland Peeps at the time, I guess, or had turned into Riverstone Commons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Jamila Lane and I and a couple other people were just like scouring information. And I don't know. Everybody's going to have their different trauma from it. But I felt like there was so little, even online, that could be done. It was like still so confusing that we haven't gotten definitive answers on a few things with everything else that's gone on.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for them to figure that out, right? I mean, because it's just an open field. No one really knows the point of origin. It seems pretty clear it was an accident. At least that's what the sheriff told me, but they're still working on it. I mean, he also describes it as the biggest crime that he can recall in the area's history. So they're still trying to figure it out, but I'm not sure if that'll ever happen. They aren't sure for sure. They're not, but
Respectfully, I think it's probably, for whatever this is worth, I'm in no way am I diluting the horror of what happened, but I think it's better if we think of it as an accident, as a terrible accident where everything went wrong, rather than trying to criminalize another human being.
I think that's fair, you know, especially if we think in the restorative justice framework that
Right.
I'm imagining this group does.
Exactly. Thanks. Thanks for letting me say it, Mayor.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's the new year. Here we go, right? Opportunities for renewal and opportunities for grace and mercy and all the things that we're about. So thanks for bringing that forward. It's 5 o'clock. I'm just waiting till a few more folks jump on. It's not my meeting. I'm just here to, you know, introduce you to your staff liaison and
Hi, you guys.
wish you well.
I am just waiting until we have a quorum before I call the meeting to order. And for the life of me, we cannot figure out why I look like I'm talking to you in the dark. So,
Oh, you have light behind you. That's probably why your windows are open.
I know I closed those blinds and then I was really dark.
Oh no.
Probably if you actually moved your computer facing the wall with your face toward the light instead of the back of your head, it would make a difference. Julie and I both being the two Julies from TV.
I have this wonderful light box up there. And I've got another light bouncing off a thing. That's because my husband, with the digital cinema stuff, he helps get it all set up. There's a Miss.
Well, I need your husband.
Dr. Precious Yamaguchi.
There she is.
Well, this is what I've got for now. I cannot move the computer. The cords are very tight. Anyway.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. We can hear you. That's the main.
I can see you. You just look like it's your
like I'm
a little more in shadow.
Ghost house.
No.
And Tamara to promote. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a quorum. I'll call this meeting to order. And I'll invite Mayor Akins to lead us off.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Anne. Anne asked me to come and just say hello to everybody as we move through this process of establishing the Social Equity and Racial Justice Commission. And we do so on a really good day, the new year. And so here we go with Rosh Hashanah and all of us being present and an opportunity for renewal and a restart of this commission. I want to thank every one of you for agreeing to do this work in the city of Ashland. This is our first commission of its type. Councillor Duquesne and I fought really hard for this. Councillor Graham stepped in and helped us, and the council unanimously agreed to this. And you are the folks who have been chosen to make it all happen and lead this forward. And I was telling Anne, it's a little bit like, and I'm dating myself, but you know, I got white hair, so I'm going to go for it. It's a little bit like having a basketball team and everybody is Michael Jordan. And that's kind of what this commission is like. We've got heavy hitters all the way around. I'm seeing your faces. I look lovely, Tamara. Your hair looks perfect. What's up? So it's great to see you all sort of in person and to know that we're beginning this. I want to request some grace here for the city of Ashland and for myself. It's taken us a moment to get our staff liaison present, and Ann Seltzer has jumped in and agreed to take us forward. She will be your facilitator until such time as you choose your chair. That was requested. You guys wanted to get to know each other better. Totally understand that. So Anne will step in and facilitate. Her gig is also to make sure that the meetings are, agendized and publicly posted, and that everyone can meet at an appropriate time and that minutes are kept. So that's kind of the granular detail of the work that we do. And it's really important because in the room, even though you can't see them, are the 21,000 residents of the city of Ashland. They're here with you, and they are the other commissioner that holds the place. And so we always want to make sure that they know everything that we're doing. And it's weird and confusing at first, but that's really kind of the beauty of the democratic system that we have through not only city council, but all of the commissions who serve this, this wonderful town we call home. And I'm so grateful to be here. So I request positive regard, unconditional positive regard. I don't know if that's a term you guys are familiar with, but my beloved husband, Leo, uses that when he facilitates meetings. Irene knows Leo, and he always talks about unconditional positive regard. So if we hold that for each other and hold ourselves through our various mistakes and foibles and offer mercy and justice, I think we'll get through this just fine. So I thank you again for being here. I appreciate your service to this community. And I introduce you to Ann Seltzer without reservation, and look forward to you guys doing great things. Heaven knows I'll be updated. And if you ever need to reach out to me just on your own, please do it. I work for you. I'm here. And I appreciate you. That's what I got. Okay, Ann, take it away. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Julie. First, everyone, thank you so much for volunteering your time to this commission and to the city of Ashland. As Julie mentioned, both the mayor and the city manager agreed that I should act as chair for the first few meetings just to ensure a successful launch and to get this going. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My husband and I were Peace Corps volunteers in Korea. We've lived in Ashland for 43 years, where we raised 2 daughters. I worked for OSF for several years in various capacities. My most proud, I think, work there was working with Peter Thomas and raising the capital for the Allen Pavilion. When that project was done at the request of Bill Patton, I became the marketing manager for OSF. In 1998, I started working for the city of Ashland as the communications manager and the marketing manager for the Ashland Fiber Network. And later, as the management analyst, I worked on several projects that never really neatly fit into other departments. For example, I rewrote the film and video ordinance for the city. I was the lead on the railroad property mitigation project. I created an employee communications guide. I tracked state and federal legislation and how it impacted local government, created the city's website and other fun projects. I was also assigned the role of the staff liaison for the Public Art Commission in the early 2000s. And I served in that capacity until I retired from the city in 2018. And it was that history that led to the city to ask me back to work part-time to staff this commission. Newly formed commissions are challenging for both the commissioners and for staff. It took a couple of years for the Public Art Commission to really get its footing and to develop a workplace culture. And eventually it became a very successful and productive commission. So you are a group of passionate individuals, and likely you're working together for the first time. You each have your unique history and background and probably have served on other committees over the years. My job as the staff liaison is to help you, the commission, succeed and work together as a cohesive group. I provide professional guidance, help facilitate meetings. I work with the chair eventually to develop the agenda and more. As Julie mentioned, I don't do the work of the commission or take direction from the commission, but I do help you figure out how to navigate the city's process and to meet the charge set forth by the city council, and ultimately to develop your own workplace culture. Like all new commissions, there will be bumps and grinds along the way, and that's to be expected. On the agenda, I included a list of meeting givens that include be respectful, raise your hand to speak, allow others to speak before speaking again. It's okay to disagree. Stay on topic. Be prepared. Do your homework. Support the relationship to and with the city, and to keep an open mind. And these might change as time goes by, but it's a good place to start. It's a foundation for us to begin. And that's it. I look forward to working with all of you, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of your July meeting.
I would so move unless somebody has any particular comments or corrections about the minutes, which respectfully, I believe needs to come first.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I'm sorry, I didn't see. Irene, was that you?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I better have
Can
a
we
show.
ask if you'd like that vocal or a show of hands?
I would like a show of hands, please. Thank you. Unanimous. Great. The next thing on the agenda is for all of you to tell us about yourselves. You mentioned at your last meeting that you wanted to get to know each other. And so I've allotted 5 minutes per person. You don't have to take 5 minutes. You can do it in less, but let's try not to go over 5 minutes. So Irene, would you like to start off?
Thank you, Anne.
Yeah.
It's a real pleasure and honor to meet you.
Thank you, Irene.
It's amazing to hear what you have done in Ashland and how long you have been here. It is really my pleasure to work with someone who knows Ashland so well.
Thank you.
And I myself have been in Ashland for 24 years. And I still teach at the Roque Community College. I teach art. And I also am the co-founder of the Ashland Culture Peace Commission. And we have just completed 4 months long of cultural literacy articles in their daily tidings. And I am very interested in joining this group because I really would love to see all of us able to walk our talk. Also, in this community, there are more diverse citizens than meets our eyes, actually, and also historical perspective. The natives and the Chinese and the African Americans had long history of oppression in this particular region. So I would like to have a broad view, and equity means everyone. So not just, I hope we just don't focus on one or two groups. So let us all walk our talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Irene. Julie, how about you?
Hi, my name is Julie Gillis. My pronouns are she and hers. I'm a nonprofit professional working with fundraising and doing some communications work and crowdfunding. I've been in Ashland for about 5 years now. I moved here in 2016 from Austin, Texas, where I worked with the University of Texas and in a number of ways. And I am a lifelong artist and activist. My work has primarily focused on the body. So I think of the body as, you know, so it's core to our being. Our storytelling around our bodies are core to our being. And of course, that impacts us in all ways, from our age and gender and sexuality and economic status and ability and race, and where we position ourselves on the body of the earth as well. So that informs a lot of why I wanted to be part of this commission, because I feel that we need to make more of those stories explicit. And as a citizen, I want to be able to be serving the community I live in and help it be healthier and help it find healthier systems, ways to belong. I identify on the LGBTQ community as a bisexual woman, and believe firmly in telling stories, healthy stories, and all the stories about our bodies in that regard too. So I've spent a lot of time back in Austin doing comedy and storytelling, and I hope I can be of use to this commission through those lenses.
Thanks, Julie. Hey, everyone, I'm going to ask you not to use the chat box. This is a public meeting and the video doesn't record the chat. So when there's interaction that the public can't see, then that's not good. Let's see, Precious, would you like to go next?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you. I'm Precious Yamaguchi. I'm an associate professor of communication at Southern Oregon University. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I've been here for a little bit over 7 years now. I served as a department chair this past summer and have just completed that. Before coming to Ashland, I was in Allentown, Pennsylvania on the East Coast, working at an all-women's college. And then most of my years growing up, I grew up in Los Angeles. 2015, I published a book on Japanese American women who reflected on their stories after the internment camps. So all 4 of my grandparents, they were interned in the Japanese American internment camps. And that's kind of been my area of research. My interests are in intercultural, international, and critical studies and feminist perspectives. And I'm very happy to meet all of you and get to know you through these different topics and issues that we will discuss in our near future. So thank you. And I have 2 babies, so I'm always very, very busy. That's it. Thank you.
I'll just say, Precious, I'm so glad you were able to join us. You had sent me an email saying that you were dashing about picking up your children from other places. So I'm glad this worked out. Anya, how about you next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anya, or Anya Naya Muse. I am currently the Director of Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access at OSF. I've been in Ashland for a very short 4 months, but I have recently relocated here. Prior to my work here with OSF, I was the Equity Officer for the County of Marin. I also teach at Cal State East Bay in a program called the Sankofa Scholars Program. I have a long history with social justice movements. In particular, I am the daughter of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee participants, or SNCC, as many people know it to be. And I come from a space, I attended Mills College for both undergrad and graduate school, and also to work on my PhD, where I'm doing organizational studies in terms of shifting culture within organizations. And so I'm excited to be here, to be in Ashland, to also be connected to some of the people that I served in Marin, who also make Ashland their home at the same time, and support OSF. I think my decision to participate is because I see the critical relationship between OSF and the community, and beyond just theater, really the organization as both an employer, and also as a bridge to the national lens on theater. OSF is known nationally around this equity work. And I think it's critical that any of the work that we do on this commission for racial justice and race equity also be in alignment with the way that OSF is moving itself to change and expand its work. So I'm very happy to be here and be in support of the work, and glad to serve with you all.
Thank you. Nataki, would you like to go next?
Hi, my name is Nataki Garrett. I'm the artistic director of the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And so I inherit actually the legacy that you leave behind here at OSF. I've been here for 2 years. I was appointed in April of 2019, and I was coming into my first season when the pandemic hit, and here we are. And so this last year, I have raised millions of dollars to try to make sure that OSF stayed alive, and subsequently to try to make sure that Ashland still had this economic engine running. You know, I relocated here to Ashland with my family. I have a husband, and I have a 11-month-old daughter, and I have two baby French bulldogs. I joined this committee for a number of reasons. I think the most important is, you know, I recently said to somebody that I didn't feel like theater changes hearts and minds. I don't think you go see a play and you shift the way you think about things. And when I find myself expressing things like that in absolute ways, I have to really kind of consider what it means, because if theater doesn't answer that, then and I'm being called to answer that, then what is it that I can do to make sure that I'm a part of the answer? There is a history here in Oregon, in Southern Oregon in particular, in Ashland to be specific, that has been exclusionary of people of color. So that's the history of the land that we're on. And those practices, exclusionary practices, are embedded in the way that things function in the city, and the way that people are treated according to all of the barriers that are put up if you are a person of color, or if you're queer, or if you're a woman, all the things, you know, all that's embedded in the way we do things. And so I'm joining this committee to be a part of the change. I know that there's an opportunity here to make sure that Ashland continues to evolve to be the version of itself that it purported itself to be when I first moved here. And I feel like being a part of at least making sure that some of the practices that we have in place, being a part of making the recommendations to shift the way that things are done within Ashland, and hopefully will permeate the Valley. Being a part of that is integral to my pedigree, how I was raised. I was also raised by people who were in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, people who were a part of Revolution. And so it's in my blood to carry this, and I will continue to carry it both in my art, in my work as an artistic leader, and also on this committee.
Thank you so much. Tammy, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tamara Williams. I also go by Tammy. I'm currently employed at Ashland School District as an education assistant, and I'm stationed at Ashland Middle School. Prior to being on this committee, I moved out here from California with my fiance. But prior to being on this committee, I actually co-founded an organization called FFSC. It's called Fund Students First campaign. And it's basically where we were trying to reallocate funds, taking it from the police department, because we found out that 35% of the donations and the funds that came into my alma mater actually went straight to the police department. So we tried to find a way to reallocate funds for mental health, for the LGBTQIA plus community, for all type of communities on campus. And even though I'm no longer involved in it now because I already graduated, I found out that because of the work that we did, we got it halted to where we didn't hire 2 new police officers, and we got funds put back into our counseling center, and we actually hired a new counselor. So that was actually pretty cool. This is actually my first time being on a committee like this, so I'm super excited. I've been in Ashland with my fiance for almost 2 years now. And even though Ashland is such a beautiful, beautiful place, it became very clear to me that it wasn't a very welcoming place for people of color. And that's why the work that I'm hoping to do on this committee with the rest of you all will hopefully help that, because I will have a lot of friends that I would love to have move up here, but I just feel like Ashland has a lot of work to do, and hopefully with the work that I can contribute to this committee, I can help. So not as long as everybody else is, but I'm just glad to be here, and I hope I can really make a change in what I do here. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Amit, you're up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amit, and seems like you guys have really interesting things to tell. I'm fairly new to Ashland and this committee. I came to America about 6 years ago, and for my master's degree, and then I have been working in software field for some time in Seattle, and then I'm in Ashland for last 3 years. I came here to do some farming and then got involved into a couple of businesses. Right now, I have a couple of businesses in Medford and here in Ashland that are related to farming. We have some fertilizer companies and worm farms that we make different agriculture, you can call stuff. And I got involved with the committee when I was helping out my friend whose name is Ming Pa, and he have been organizing different events related to racial equity, and we organized a couple of marches for the Aiden Ellison, the kid that was shot last year. And I kept on getting involved in the things, and that's how I came to know about the committee that was being formed, and then I'm here. I'm hoping to contribute something from my side, whatever I can, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Amit. I'm so glad we connected. Emily, would you like to go?
Sure. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all again. And I feel like I stand on the shoulders of many of you in this room for the work that you are doing and the work that you've already done. To be very blunt about my involvement in this commission, I think that Gina can sort of nod or shake her head yes here, that I was very involved in the creation of this commission and testified on a nearly bi-monthly basis at every single city council meeting about the history of racial inequity in this valley. And with all due respect to all of the other groups that are in this room, and I'm a Jewish lesbian when I say this, I believe to my fingertips that it is the racial inequity in this valley and the history of the KKK marching down the main street of Ashland as recently as in the 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s that speak to the need for this commission, which was then encapsulated in Aiden Ellison being murdered at the Stratford Inn, which is maybe 5 blocks from my house. And I saw the young man often on my morning walks. So I have deep emotional feelings about my role as a white-skinned person in issues that relate to race. And I have a deep drive to do everything I can using my skills as a lawyer and my connections, to be blunt, with other persons of white skin to see what we can do to try and change the culture of this valley. And I believe that the place that I live in is a good place to start. I represent individuals who are accused of crime in federal court. They get a lot of time in jail. They're often Black people, and it speaks to the over-incarceration of Black people in what we have substituted for slavery, which is incarceration. So I think this is crucial work to do. I am delighted at the opportunity to continue to do that. And I very much want to, even though they're not in the room, reference the very good people at base, for those of you who don't know, who are doing wonderful work and assisting in the organization in this community of things that I believe can make a difference. In the 1990s, and then I'll stop talking if I'm up to my 5 minutes, I think I'm going to do this right. Between 1992 and 1998, I sat on the Oversight Commission for the Police in Portland, Oregon. And I'm raising that because I believe that and since we're in a public meeting space, I'm going to say this, Anne, I'm very proud of this committee for the stance that we took regarding a recognition that regardless of who the person is, that there is an inherent problem in this valley between Black people and between the police, and we need to address that head on in any forums that we can. I think that Chief O'Mara is very interested in learning how to make that better. I wish I felt the same way about every other police chief in the valley. I think they're all trying very, very hard to do that. And I think that we can show them the way. But I think we need, as a municipality, to do those things, which is part of the reason for why I decided to continue the work and be on this commission. The other thing I would say, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I always
Keith.
talk longer than I'm given. I am an attorney after all.
Okay. I'll watch you. Keith, you're up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Keith Jenkins. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Currently, I am the founder and director of So Black, Southern Oregon Black Leaders, Activists, and Community Coalition. I moved to Ashland almost 2 years ago now. And when I first moved here, I was working as a consultant for Dancing Heart Consultants, working on the We Count Oregon campaign. The day after I moved here, the pandemic hit. So we had to pivot, and because I was supposed to be door knocking and community organizing, getting out and actually talking to people. But as we know, during the pandemic, we absolutely can't do that. So we had to pivot and we moved everything online. We hired 60 people for 5 months, paid them a living wage to basically phone bank for us. And that campaign was a success. And towards the end of that campaign, the horrific murder of George Floyd happened. And living in Ashland, but originally being from a place like Oakland, California, that's where I'm from. The people that were talking out and the things that were being said after George Floyd was murdered, nobody looked like me who was talking. And I felt like that was a time where people who looked like me definitely needed to be heard from. So after the horrific murder of George Floyd, I decided to start So Black. And while starting So Black, I got to know some community members, and we did some community policing forums, and we did some building of the Black agenda and a few other things. But within all that, getting to know the political landscape of this city, I noticed that yet again, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me on any of the commissions in any positions of power. I believe that Gina was the only one when I for some time when I moved out here. So when I heard about the commission, I jumped at the opportunity to join it because I come from a family of activists. My father was involved with the Panthers. My mother was involved with the Third World Women Alliance and then the African American Women Alliance. So my whole life, this is what we do. Back in Oakland, I was involved in raising the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $17 an hour. I was involved in the campaign to get ranked choice voting added into Oakland. I was involved in 60% local hire for the Oakland Army base, and a myriad of other things. And I say that to say that I care about people and I care about the people. And that's why I joined this commission, because I want to see all people done right. But within that, it's people of color and people who are marginalized. And those are the people who are not spoken for. So I want to speak out for them.
Thank you, Keith. Gina, you're up.
Wow. Thank you, Anne. I just want to say how much I appreciate everyone standing up, everyone taking this on. A little bit of the reason why I felt this was so important for this commission to be realized and for it to happen. First off, I felt like we were behind the times. This should have happened a long time ago. And there's such a need for this. I've lived in Ashland for 14 years, and I've seen it change from the way I got here. I heard Anya say how when she got here, she thought it was this way. I've heard Tammy say how I want people to come, but I don't know, do I? And I loved what Keith said, it's what we do. It's what I do. If there's a need and there's something that needs assistance to help it happen, I go towards that. Working with the council to move this commission forward was not necessarily an easy task. And that kind of blew me away because to me, it was a no-brainer. This needs to happen. And the climate that we had in 2020, you know, I've heard everyone touch on that. The climate that we had from 2020, this needed to happen. So I appreciate Emily showing up and giving her voice to it. I appreciate Amit. That's because I saw you and I thought, that's where I know you from. You and Ming Pa and working together and organizing after the death of a young man. He was a boy, he wasn't even a young man. I have grandchildren his age, you know? And so I look at this collective group of people and the history and the background that I hear the strength come from Nataki's voice and her passion about wanting to see this happen and keep Ashland whole. I hear Irene say, walk the walk. These are the things we need to do. And I hear the passion in the voices of Precious and Julie. Everyone has skin in this game. We all literally skin in this game, right? And we want to see Ashland succeed, as I want to see Ashland succeed. So pushing this forward, now it's a commission. We have an ordinance, signed, sealed, delivered. I look forward to rolling up my sleeves, working with you side by side. As your council liaison, part of my job is once we get the ball rolling and people come to you and there are things in front of you, I can go to council when you bring that to me. Gina, let's talk about this. Let's look at this and let's see what our perimeters are and how we can move forward. Because as this commission gets her strength, her legs, her feet, I know that there are going to be situations when people will come to this commission and they will come looking for direction. And I'm so grateful that you're here. I didn't tell you anything about my background, but I'm Ashland City Councilor, and I do want to give a big shout out to Southern Oregon Pride. I am the founder of So Pride, and I look forward to taking it to the streets in 2022. And I hope that this commission will have a group there in the parade and we can all have a good time together face to face. So I appreciate everyone stepping up and I thank you, and let's do it. This is what we do, right? Let's do it. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Gina. The next item on the agenda is public input. If somebody has contact, first of all, I'll tell you that somebody did contact me asking if there was public involvement in this meeting. I said yes. I told the person how to participate. And I didn't hear anything more, and she's not listed in the attendees. So we have no one speaking to you today. So we'll move on to a review of the duties of the commission. And I'm going to share my screen. And I'm select a window or application that I want to share. I want to share that. Okay. Does this work? No. Share. No. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes, we can see it.
you can see that
Oh,
page.
you can? Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, so I'm sharing this because last time you met, I've reviewed that meeting, that video a few times. Somebody was talking about a Dropbox and all these different documents, and I just want to show you where you can find everything. This is the City of Ashland's homepage, ashland.or.us. On this upper banner is City Commissions. There's a drop-down box. You go down to Social Equity and Racial Justice Commission, click, and I've put all documents relative to your work on this page. So this is an easy reference point to get to those documents: the resolution, the work plan, the advisory handbook, public meeting guide, uniform policies and procedures. This work right here, this is the ordinance that established your commission. Scrolling down this page, here you are. Eventually, when we have a regular meeting, it will be posted here. And you can see all the agendas and minutes. Apparently, we no longer list, this has changed since I left the city, we no longer list your individual emails because they were getting hacked. It got kind of ugly. So to protect all of you, we no longer are listing your individual emails. So specifically in reviewing the duties of the commission, let's look at this section right here. You're serving, as you know, as an advisory body to the city manager. Yes, let's see. I'm sorry, Anya, you have your hand raised, but so go ahead to unmute.
I'm sorry. I just, I don't want to gloss over that it got ugly in the emails. And I know this may not be the time to address it, but what I would like to know at some point is in the future, when we do get contacted in other ways, how we are going to handle that as a body. And you don't have to speak to that immediately, but just know that it is a concern of mine.
We can talk about that and what that process will be.
Okay, thank you.
So you're serving as an advisory body. You don't have any sort of unilateral authority. You can make recommendations to the city council, but you can't act on that on your own. So encouraging understanding, promoting intergroup relations. What I really want to jump to is H. I found that with newly formed commissions, it helps the commission if you have a win, if you pick the low-hanging fruit of actions that you can actually take. So for example, if we look at H, and Anya, this kind of goes back to what you were saying about people approaching the commission. So H is very clear how you would handle it. Obviously, we're going to talk about process on this at another time. But it goes on to say if there's a mutual agreement from all parties involved in the incident, then the commission can arrange for an impartial, non-binding, collaborative, conciliatory service that doesn't conflict with other government body. I don't know what that is at this point, but we'll figure that out. And if any party involved in the incident does not want to engage in those services, then the aggrieved individual will be referred to qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel. That is an action item that this commission needs to take on. you need to develop what are those qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel. So at some point, doesn't have to be this meeting, I'm going to ask who will take on this work. And you can start with a draft, bring it back to the commission. We can come up with maybe I would have to figure this out. If three people want to be involved, you could email back and forth, but you can't talk to anybody outside of that group to begin to develop those qualified sources. So that's an action that can begin now. The delivering annual reports, that usually, well, it's annual. So I'm guessing that you guys will probably do this in July of next year, come to the council and present the council with the work you've been working on. And then I'll leave you to read this more, but I wanted to point out that that is a starting point, developing those sources that you would have available for people who come to you. The next thing I want to review is the work plan. Gina was very involved in developing this work plan, and again, I think that there are some action tasks that you could extract from this work plan so that you have some sort of forward movement. For example, the first one is work with community partners to develop a joint training, incident response, and community acknowledgement program. However, does this commission know, number one, who those community partners are, and two, what they already have in place? So part of your work is developing relationships with other community organizations and finding out what they already have in place, and then working to develop something that can help them. Work with Southern Oregon University to conduct a research project. So again, I think that the first step is somebody needs to communicate with SOU, so maybe it's Precious, to determine what research, if any, has already been done, and then how might you do that research. I had SOU do research for me several times, and I can't think of her name. She was phenomenal. But there is a source there, but first you need to know what there is before beginning. Review and provide feedback on the city's efforts to integrate the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this, I told Gina, this is a little misleading in that you cannot request or tell staff what to do. And you can't ask to, you could say what has been done or what is being done, but you can't tell them what to do. However, if you go back to the screen, I'm gonna go here, the resolution, and you scroll down, there's the work plan. This document here, this is the tracking item of what staff and various departments are doing in terms of social equity and racial justice internally within the organization. They give this to the council. Gina, is it every 6 months or every 3 months? This one was in June, I believe.
Yes. So what would happen is this document in front of you, you would bring it back to council every 6 months. Some of this council was working on. This is something just for you to, this whole idea of this tracking, you can see what has and has not been done. Maybe you want to add something on there that you feel like is relevant that needs to be done. This is a living document for you to be able to use as needed. And something that I just wanted to dial back on a little bit, and is when it came to the work plan that was put together, this is kind of a starting point, a jump off point that you were looking at on the other, I'm sorry, I have two screens going here, but you were looking at that was up previously, the work plan, and it mentioned working with community partners to develop a joint training and response and acknowledge. Many of you are community leaders. Many of you are already connected to you are the partner of this commission. So to maybe go back and see how this can be implemented in the role that you work outside of this commission. And I think it would be good also to meet with other commissions that are already established.
So that's good. I'll just piggyback on that, Gina. One of the things that we had the Public Art Commission do nearly 20 years ago, they were the last, no, maybe the second to the last newly formed commission. But eventually, when they kind of had their footing and knew what they were communicating, and they worked on this as a commission, once they had their, I don't know, consensus together, they reached out to other commissions and asked to be invited. And so you could attend, you could ask to be invited to the Historic Commission. And just as an introduction, say, this is this newly formed commission, this is what we do. We wanted to let you know that this work is what we're charged to do by the City Council. And if we can help in any way with the work that you're doing, please let us know. So gradually, again, much of this is developing relationships with existing community partners and developing relationships with other commissions. I just want to stress that this tracking sheet is certainly available for you to review and ask questions about, but not give direction to staff on what should be done with this tracking sheet. Are there any questions about the work plan? Yes, Emily.
I would like to know if this is the time for discussion and motions relating to the work plan, or if you intended that to be later on in the agenda when you said that there would be open time in the agenda for next steps, because I do have a very concrete next step that I think would be very helpful for the members of this commission, and it would certainly be very helpful for me. Okay. And I don't know if this is the right time to raise it.
I think so. I just want to, I'm not sure what motion you would be making. I think that there's nothing on the table right now, but if you have a point that you want to discuss and suggest, this would be a good time.
Great. I would like very much for there to be the opportunity, without telling them what to do, to get the sense of what the city of Ashland does do with all of its personnel regarding cultural competency training.
So I will tell you that we can ask HR, but we can't give them additional work. So if Tina can put together a summary of what HR does in terms of that, and she already has it together and she can put something together, that would be fine. But we can't ask her to create, we cannot ask staff to create work. And on here, once you have a chance to really read it, there is information put forward by Tina Gray in HR and what she has put together.
Okay, and I understand that, Anne, and I've read it. So okay. I want you to know I've been very involved in this, okay? So I've read that, and respectfully, it does not address what I'm talking about. So it says in the broadest brush terms, the objective, but it doesn't say how it's done. So for example, I don't know if the city of Ashland gives to its employees to use calendars that have dates on them that are fully reflective of the panoply of people that are in the city of Ashland in the scheduling of meetings. I don't know if in HR, when, for example, I'll just give you a blunt example, if a person calls Public Works because there's a problem at their home, I don't know if there's cultural competency that is given to individuals that tells them how to address that person who's calling. I mean, in terms of how you reference that person. And I think that there are, when you talk about low-hanging fruit, it appears to me, without giving them work or telling them necessarily what to do, but it appears to me that before we can address what needs to be done, we need to know what's going on. And the other parts of the commission, because I'm very familiar with that tracking device, but the other parts of the commission, and part of the reason it was created, was to give us the power, or not even, the power is the wrong word. It gives us the eyes and the ears to learn what is going on, because, or how else do we make suggestions to Gina to take to city council to get things changed?
So here's what we could do. I can certainly pose that question, but maybe what we're doing is, again, after a few meetings, we invite Tina Gray to attend this meeting, and you can talk to her about those things.
I'm suggesting we do that now.
Okay.
Or at our next meeting, because I'm very concerned, Anne, and I would appreciate if you would just hear this concern from me, okay? I'm very concerned that, as we say, after a few meetings, and the meetings are once a month, that by the time we're after a few meetings, that we're into 2022, and we still really haven't done, and again, this is my perspective, I understand this is a white-skinned perspective, but that we still haven't done the things that we said that we were going to do, anything. So I'm very concerned about that. I think this is a specific thing that we could request so that we could just start learning how the city of Ashland works on a day-to-day level. I'm certainly aware of what the police say that they do, okay? Whether they do it or not is actually a secondary issue. I'd like to know what the city of Ashland does, since I am here on this commission.
Okay, let me invite Gina, who's had her hand up for a while, to speak. Gina.
Thank you, and I'll be short. I do know that Tina Gray, HR, she was working with, actually, I introduced her to Michael and Emily Green, and they were going to do some work together. And then COVID hit. But I want to kind of help answer your question also, Emily, is that this tracking sheet, this was created. You remember when it was created before this commission was created. It was created before I was on council. And so this was something that was formed to be able to work from. Okay, we did that, we did that, we did that, okay? But this is a living document. And so I would make the suggestion, mind you, I'm not a voting voice on this commission, but to make the suggestion to use this as a living document and insert that into, this is what we want to do. What are we doing? Because it's important for us to respect everyone where they are and have that competency of everyone. So to be able to insert that in there, and I'm more than happy to take that back to Tina or to our city manager and say, Gary, you know, this was a conversation we had, and I want you to know that our city manager pro tem is very hands-on with this, and he wants this commission to succeed. So ask the question. I'm more than happy to do that, but use that checklist as a living document. as you see it and sent it to all of us. Insert things as you feel, okay, let's look at this, let's look at this. And that is low-hanging fruit. Thank you, Anne. And I'll turn it over to Anya or Nataki. I don't know which one.
I see that Anya has her hand up.
Nataki was before me. Go ahead, Nataki.
Oh, thank you, Anya.
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Oh yeah, no problem, I'm right here. So I'm just curious because I'm just curious about what the scope of work is. What is the criteria for more work and who determines that? Like, how do we know if we're creating more work? Like in terms of thinking about what Emily's asking about cultural competency, it seems like HR would have that information. And so how do we know if that's outside of the frame? Are you going to provide us with job descriptions so that we have an idea about what the scope of work is that the people that we're engaging with, just so that we have an understanding? Because the idea of more work is kind of outside of all of our purview. We don't work for the city. So what is the scope of work? Who determines the criteria? And how do we know it's more work than what they're already doing or have access to in terms of providing information?
So the person that determines the workload would be the city manager. So if you want city staff to do something, you can go through me or through Gina to the city manager.
Okay, so we should make a request to the city manager or you?
Yes, but can we just go back to, sorry, tell me where you're reading that this is your charge to,
well, I'm actually just following what you said, this exchange between you and Emily. Emily asked a question about cultural competency and gathering information about the ways in which the city of Ashland has dealt with cultural competency issues. And you said that might be outside of that might create more work and that we're not in a position to create more work. So I was actually just basing on what you said.
Okay, so I think there are probably several statements in that with Emily. If the question is, what is the city doing, currently doing about cultural competency? I said, perhaps I can ask Tina Gray to participate in one of our meetings and she can address those issues.
You also said more work. You said that
I said this commission does not have the authority to create work for staff.
So how do we know if we're creating work for staff? My question has to do with that statement. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
How do we know, and what's the criteria for that, and who determines what that is? Because we don't work for the city, so we don't know if it's more work or less work or within the framework of their job.
So it would come through me, and I could certainly talk to the city manager, and we could go from there, and I can report back. Gina can also talk to the city manager about the workload. So just bring it through Gina or me, and we'll go from there. What I'm going to mark down right now is a request for Tina to speak to this group. It may not be at the next meeting. It might not be for 2 more meetings. It depends on her availability. We don't even have a regular meeting schedule yet. So once we get our footing, you'll be able to get some of this stuff. We can invite guests, but Anya, you had your hand up.
So yeah, I wanna do something that just because of past work on commissions and with city managers and boards, and have this real critical conversation of understanding so that by the time we hit our next meeting, we know kind of what our jumping off point is in terms of how we're going to solidify ourselves and move forward in the work. Because what I'm seeing in terms of this rubric, right, that is input through the city from department to department, and then this conversation about low-hanging fruit, what comes up for me is there seems to be a conflict. So here are the things that we're currently mapped out. This is what we're working on as a city. Here is the building of the commission, but the commission cannot create additional work for city employees, which is absolutely understandable. However, if you have a commission that is tackling low-hanging fruit and making recommendations, it is going to create more work, right? Ultimately,
no, you're doing the work. You're doing the work.
So, but we have to do that work with, there may be an ask, for example.
There might be.
Right, and that ask may tax the existing departments like HR, right? For example, there may be an ask of the commission to say, can we work with a specific department within the city structure to do some type of build out of racial equity understanding? That's going to take time on the part of the commission and on the part of the folks working in the city. It may take time for you, it may take time for the city manager. And it sounds like there's double meaning, at least for me, in terms of what the commission does. Every commission I've ever served on, we could not ask directly that a department do extra work, but what we did was invited people from a department to participate, which ultimately caused additional work to be done that was approved through the city manager or the board of supervisors.
Mm-hmm. So inviting Tina to attend to tell you what she's working on, that might evolve into more work, and she may or may not be able to take it on. But absolutely, I think that's a step forward. The other thing that you might consider doing before you start kind of digging into staff is get a sense of what you're asking. So are there 3 of you that want to work on that task of developing an ask for city staff? When I go back and look at your duties, I don't see something that says, maybe I'm missing it. To define problems in city policies or governance.
Yep. That's it right there. And you just said exactly what it is and where it is.
Okay, so what you need to educate yourselves are what are those city policies? And so what you need from me is some direction on how to review those city policies.
No, incorrect. It says city policies and directives. And I am looking for the directives in terms of, and in a certain sense, it is city policies.
Where are you seeing directives, Emily? I'm sorry, what are you referring to, Emily, specifically?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I wish I had the document in front of me right now, but if I do that, I will lose you, okay? And I don't think I want to get lost.
Okay, so I could share the screen again so you could look at duties. Would you like to see it again?
All right, my point on this, Anne, is that Gina just said, is that this is a living document that is meant to be as broad as it can possibly be, so that in terms of what our overarching issues on the commission is to determine what areas need to be addressed. And I think that I have named an area that needs to be addressed.
That you're curious about. You don't know yet.
Anne, are you going to keep interrupting me?
Because I might,
okay,
Emily.
All right.
I want you to get specific.
I want to take time out for just a minute, Anne, because I feel like you've been interrupting me and other commissioners, and I have a problem with that. So I just want to raise that right now, because even though you're acting as the chair, you are still not a commissioner and you're not on this commission. You're a staff member. So respectfully, if I am raising something like I would like to talk to Tina Gray, okay, which I understand that now you have said you will invite her to a meeting, and thank you. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel comfortable about needing to, unless all the rest of the fellow commissioners say, we think that's a stupid idea. We don't think that should happen. We don't like that. If that's where that's going, I'd be glad to hear that from the other commissioners. And I'd be glad to hear if they think I'm off base. But I don't want to be in this position.
So I'm gonna, before Anya continues, Tamara's had her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because I heard that you said that we should all put together an ask, but you're also saying that we can't create work. So what if the ask that we all agree on creates work for other departments in other places? Do we have to create another one, or how does that work?
You're basically your ask, if it creates work, then we're asking the city manager to direct that department or staff person to take on that work.
Okay, but if you're saying that we can't create work, how would they be able to take on work if we're not supposed to be creating work? You see what I'm saying?
I don't see what you're saying. I'm sorry.
So you're saying that we all have to collectively come up with an ask. What if the ask that we come up with, that we give to you and you take it to wherever you need to take it to, creates more work for whoever that is? But you're saying that we're not supposed to create work for those people.
Well, I think it's things have all gotten kind of taken out of sequence here. If there is work that you want staff to provide, prepare that ask, bring it to the commission meeting, bring it, and then I can take it to the city manager, and the city manager can direct staff to take it on. Or he can say no, that they can't take it on.
Yeah, because I feel that work has to be done. I mean, for anything that we ask in this commission, I mean, anything that we come up with and we give to you, work has to be done. So if you're telling us the work isn't going to be done, then kind of where are we going? Because I'm getting a little confused as well.
Think of it in terms of what is your work. So for example, going back to your duties that are mapped out in the ordinance, focus on that and for a minute and review that and decide what is the work that we could take on with that. I feel like we're getting into the weeds with the work plan and staff. And this is something that Gina and I talked about prior to this meeting. So I don't want all of us to get into the weeds about asking staff to do work.
No, this is just like a hypothetical saying the ask that we come up with, because it looks like work is going to need to be done.
Do you think I haven't answered it? Sorry, but I think I've answered it. That come up with the ask. If it involves work, I take it to the city manager, and then the city manager asks the department or the person to take it on and do the work. Is that? Sorry, Tamara, I don't mean to not understand.
I mean, no, it's okay, because this is my first commission that I served on. So I just want to make sure that, you know, the work that I am doing personally, that I'm trying to contribute, can help to what we're trying to doing for what the name of this commission is. But I guess I'll just go back and I'll reread the document again when I get some time to see, because I'm just a little confused. Just a little bit.
It's confusing. It's just starting out. It's bumpy and
I get it. No, I get it. No, I get it. I completely get it. That was just the only question. So whoever else had their hand raised, you guys can go.
Is there anyone else?
I just don't think it's confusing. I think it's
okay. That's great.
Really simple. I think, and maybe I'm off base. So like other commissioners, you know, after I say this, speak peace. What I think is, we have a charge as a commission to figure out areas of improvement on racial equity in the city of Ashland based on being a commission. That is the role. From that role, the recommendations that we put forward to Gina and to you will then go to the city manager.
Or the council.
Consequently, what will happen naturally in the progression of this work is there will be an ask on the part of this commission to people who have day-to-day roles in different offices, different departments, which will in fact cause more work. So the more work thing keeps coming up, because I think what this commission is trying to do is right size itself about boundaries. Where are the boundaries? So it's not me calling a department and saying to somebody, hey, the commission wants to do this, I need you to do it. It's not us directing someone to work. But causation says that anything we come up with, whether it's low-hanging fruit from that list or whether we come up with our own new things that are separate from that list, is consequently going to cause additional work. That has to go through the city manager first. It's not for us to assign.
I think you summarized it perfectly.
Right. So I think what we need to determine, though, is that whatever this low-hanging fruit is, look at the current list, see if there are areas on the current list that appeal to the work of this commission. And if there aren't, then we convene a separate list or borrow from what's existing. I think where you're getting pushback in is there's a habit in commission work for us to put the low-hanging fruit forward and then hear, well, we're already doing that, it's on the list. And so I think some of us are anticipating that and wanting to make sure that we're not, I'll speak for myself. I wanna make sure that we don't get told, well, a department is already doing that work, remember it's on the list. Because my question then will be, how is it doing that work? So if the fire department says, for example, that it is hiring firefighters and increasing the numbers of firefighters of color in Ashland, right? Then that tells me that they're actively engaged and working and doing that. And my question would be how? How are they doing that? Are they doing it through recruitment? Are they doing it through educational engagement? So is it okay for me to contact the fire department to ask those questions? Or is that a task of the administration of the commission to ask those questions for me?
That is the task of you should not contact the fire department directly.
Okay.
The fire department doesn't do its own recruiting. All the recruiting happens through the HR department, which is Tina Gray, which brings me back to inviting Tina to speak to this group and talk about her recruiting processes. What is her outreach? Both right. Externally and then internally, what are those cultural competencies? So
right, and so that's why I'm trying to, for all of us, like just map that out, because in the meeting that we had prior, I mean, I don't know if this is reflected in the notes. I have not looked at the minutes. Let me be very transparent because I had 8 million other things, but I'm wanting to clarify so that we are clear about rules, because that was a huge kind of issue for us in the very first meeting. Was what can we do and not do? How are we moving and not moving? And how are we staying in alignment with what is being asked of us? So now I'm clear. Right. And I just wanted to encapsulate that. Now I know what the direction is.
And thanks, Anya. I think that you've summarized it beautifully and accurately. I think that, I mean, I've reviewed those meetings, or the meeting that you guys had. And the thought that came to me is just need to be a little more fluid. Setting the rules in stone right now can limit you further down the road. I've tried to say, that in terms of staff work, here are the limitations. It doesn't mean that it can't change, that it isn't fluid, that we can't. Everybody wants this commission to succeed, but setting the rules in stone right this minute at this meeting, it's not going to happen. It's going to be fluid, and that's good that it's fluid. Again, I think the other thing is that we're using language that isn't consistent. There isn't a list for you to tackle. You have duties that are outlined in the ordinance, and I pointed out one task that could be done. The work plan is something that Gina and Tanya came up with. And there are also tasks that can be extracted from that. So there isn't really a list of things that you're supposed to tackle. You have an ordinance that defines your duties, and then a work plan created by 2 counselors that the city council approved to help you as a launching pad to get started. Yes, Emily.
I would like to make a motion, please.
I had my hand.
I'm sorry, Nataki.
Oh, Emily, I'm sorry, Nataki. I didn't realize that.
Go ahead, Nataki.
And actually, thank you. It'll be relatively quick. I did want to answer Emily's question from before is this something that's important to us to make sure that we have information about cultural competency? And as I just wanted to say for myself, it is really important for me. And it goes back to this exchange between Anne and Anya that I think it's important. I think what's an issue is wanting to make sure that we're making informed recommendations, that we're not sort of treading our wheels in things that have already been done or have already started, or we want to make sure that we can get the information about what's occurred before this commission was convened, so that the recommendations that we're making are about moving things forward, as opposed to going back over whatever the ordinance says, whatever those ideas are, to make sure that we can actually move some things forward. And so I just wanted to say yes to Emily, and also to you as the liaison, and if you could just make sure that is what's at the center of this idea about whether or not something's going to make more work or less work. That as you answer, because we're not making rules yet for ourselves, as you answer, just know that what's at the center of it for a number of us, what I'm hearing, is this idea that we want to make sure that we're informed as we move forward.
I think that's a great word, being informed. And that's what you need to know as you're moving forward. So I think that's great. Yes, Emily.
Okay, thank you. I would like to, and thank you, Nataka, for saying that. I very much appreciate it, because it was what I was trying to communicate before. So I really appreciate the help. And I'd also like to thank you, Anya, for summarizing the concerns overall. And with that in mind, because I think that it's important that there not just be, in terms of communicating things to both Gina and Anne, that I just not be me who was asking for something when I said, I don't know if this is important to everybody. So the only way that I know how to reflect the importance that the commission may have on this is to make a motion that at the next meeting that we have, if it's possible for Tina Gray, who is the person who does HR, to come to the commission and be able to explain to us how the city of Ashland, so we have the information, or so we're informed, or so we're not doing it over again, okay, has the information to give to us regarding issues relating to cultural competency and what the city of Ashland actually does, not what was planned to do and stopped by the pandemic, but what is happening now on the ground, because I don't think there is anybody in this room who knows the answers to those questions, okay? And I think that as commissioners, it is incumbent upon us to find out what is going on from the city's perspective in the event
Emily,
that
can you try and work that motion into something more?
I can make it very simple. I can make it very simple.
Okay, great.
I move that Tina Gray comes to the next meeting.
Perfect. Is there a second?
Okay.
Julie?
I second that.
And is there any discussion? Tamara?
No, I was just raising my hand saying that I second the motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion? So the only caveat I would say is, if I think, Emily, you did state this. And so when I write the motion for the minutes, I'm going to include, if possible. So if your next meeting is a date when she's not available, that doesn't work. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. So I think, Emily, at least from my perspective, what we should do then is give an invite. If she cannot make it to the next meeting, then just get a heads up, right, from Anne as the liaison for when she can, and be prepared at that time.
That's perfect.
I agreed. I take that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so before we move into wrap up and items to be added to the future agenda, we've got Tina. But before we get to that, was anyone willing to take on the task of developing the number H, qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel?
Excuse me, I have to ask this as a point of procedure, having been on other governmental bodies. I didn't hear if there was an actual vote on that. And if there needs to be a vote on that. I think that everybody's in agreement, but
you put it forward as a motion with a second from Julie. So yes, all those in favor of that motion? Hands up. Unanimous. Thank you, Emily, for pointing that out. So unanimous agreement. I will work that motion into language for the minutes. So is there anyone that wants to take on H in duties?
Can you reread H for me just because it's not on the screen and I don't have it available for you?
I'm gonna share.
Sure. And when you share, do you mind enlarging?
I will do my best.
Thank you.
Oh, Anya, I'm sorry. I'm not very good at this.
It won't let you share.
Can I share my screen?
Can you see it at all?
I can share my screen if that helps.
Oh, wait. It helps if you push the share button.
Somebody already did it.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So here's H. These are your duties. H.
Is that visible? Can I don't mind reading it if anybody wants me to.
Can somebody read it because it's really, really small on my screen?
I'll read it. An individual may approach the commission regarding a specific instance of prejudice, discrimination, or racism. If there is a mutual agreement from all parties involved in the incident, then the commission shall arrange for impartial, non-binding, collaborative, conciliatory services that do not conflict with functions of any other governmental body. If any party involved in the incident does not want to engage in conciliatory services, then the aggrieved individual will be referred to qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel.
Anya, did you have your hand up?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So 2 questions might turn into 3, my apologies. The first is individual or group. I think the responsibility of one person to do this, that seems to get a little tricky for me. So maybe it should be 2 or 3 people that come together to discuss, because otherwise things get put forward as discriminatory or racist. And does one person have the ability to speak for everybody in the commission to do that? That's just my opinion. So I'm putting that out there. Should it be 2 or 3 people? I don't know how we get to the 2 or 3. The next thing is when it says, if any party involved in the incident does not want to engage in conciliatory services, then the aggrieved individual will be referred to qualified sources, impartial advice and counsel. My question is, who is that? Does the commission?
That's my question to all of you.
Yeah, okay. So I think it should be a group that comes together and then as a group decide who impartial counsel is. So is that like an organization that does race equity? Or go ahead, Gina, I'm sorry.
No, Gina, okay. So there's 2 parts in H. I don't know what collaborative conciliatory services is. I don't know what the intent of that statement was, and that's something that we need to find out. But the aggrieved individual would be referred to qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel. So presumably that means that this person could be given a list of qualified sources. So this commission should put together a list of those qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel. And you're right, Anya, it should be 2 or 3 people. You can email each other, you can do your research, and then bring that piece back to the commission at the next meeting. So the question I raised is, does anybody want to volunteer to work on that task?
I will put myself forward and volunteer. Gina, I'll just speak that, but let me also say that I have a concern about this conciliatory services, the collaborative piece, because that may require an outside source that has to be paid, and this commission does not have funding. So
you're absolutely right
around whether or not the city, which I assume no, given the fiscal space that the city is in this moment. I have, because of my work in equity and idea work, there are folks that we could seek counsel from, but it may be a conflict of interest because of the work with OSF. So I want to be really clear, like I'm happy to put people forward, but there may be a funding ask and we need to know what the decision and rules are around that.
I think we cross that bridge with funding when we get to it. I think putting together that list of qualified sources of impartial advice and counsel is one.
I will put myself forward as one.
Okay, and then two is identifying conciliatory services. So that could be a separate list. So number one, sorry, Julie, just 1 second. Is there somebody else, others that will volunteer to help Anya with this task? Julie is saying yes.
I am happy to volunteer, and my question was, the way it reads to me is that if there's a mutual agreement, the commission shall arrange for an impartial, non-binding conciliatory service. So that might be something that is a new service that is created, that we would have helped create.
Could
right?
be.
Oh, you're nodding. Okay, good. I'm not wrong there. But if someone says, I don't want to go to the commission's service, then we can say, here's this list. Okay, exactly. I'm good. I'm clear. And I'm happy to volunteer if that is comfortable for you.
Thank you. I would just point out this charge that you're given, H, was written by the city. So presumably that means the city is willing to pony up to pay for those conciliatory costs.
One would hope.
Okay, so Julie, Anya, and is there anyone else that wants to help with that task? Okay. Thank you both.
And just a point of clarification, because I'm allowed then, Anya and I are allowed to meet and talk and discuss. And
right, but you don't want to send your list to Nataki and saying, what do you think? Does this make sense?
I'll join. I was actually just raising my hand. Yes, I'll join that work.
Okay.
All right. So then the three of us are allowed to communicate freely about and train. Okay, got it. Just didn't want to.
Perfect. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome.
You know, Anne, can I jump in really quick?
Absolutely.
So something that I wanted to say is just to clarify, which was brought up, a great question that Julie just brought up, is can we talk? So I think it's important that the commission knows a quorum and how many people can talk and what your topics are that you're talking about. If you talk, you can email, you can't answer all, that type of violation that, you know, you're not supposed to do. So if we have questions, you could send your questions to Anne or myself, and then I would answer or Anne would answer, but you can't go back and forth with each other. So Anne, quickly, if you can answer the description of a quorum and what does and does not constitute that.
So a quorum is half plus one. So this commission, you're 11 people. 11 people could be, but only 10 have been appointed. Regardless of whether it's 11 or 10, a quorum is 6. For the 3 of you, you can communicate between yourselves and develop a list. And then what you would want to do is get it back to me prior to the next meeting, which we still don't know when that is. And I can add it to the agenda for everybody to discuss it. Anya, I'm sorry, you're muted.
I'm fine.
Okay. Gina, does that answer what you were asking? You were asking about a quorum, Gina.
Make sure if the commission understands that you can't email each other on topics. If you're in a subcommittee, which I believe you just formed a subcommittee with Nataki and Anya and Julie, then you are going to communicate. And then you can share that with Anne or myself, or if anybody ever has questions, you can always email me or call me and say, Gina, what's going on? However, I would not call the other one and say, hey, you know, we have to keep it down underneath that quorum number so that it's not a meeting. So if the commission understands, I'm very cool with it. And I was hoping that if this time next month works, maybe you could establish your concrete meeting time.
Let me just jump in. I was not aware of this, but Wednesdays can be challenging for our OSF members. So I am looking at either the first or second Thursday of the month. I will send out a doodle poll and let you know what works for the most people. It's fabulous that 9 of you were able to be here today. Sherry was disappointed that she wasn't able to be here. But it's pretty darn good that 9 people were able to find a day and a time that worked. So Gina, that's why the Wednesday isn't the best, because it doesn't really work for OSF. But in the doodle poll, which I will send out soon, not today, I'm looking at the first or the second Thursday. This time seemed to work for everyone. It was a little tricky for Precious because of childcare and pickup. So I'll just include a couple of times and you guys can decide. Does that make sense? The other thing I wanted to throw out there.
Do we need to vote on H, the decision to have the 3 of us? Is that something that we need to vote on, or are we fine to move forward?
We're fine. We're fine. You've just formed a subcommittee and have agreed to that work. The other thing I wanted to throw out under wrap up, this is, you know, it'll be up to each person's comfort level, but I would love to meet each of you, maybe 2 of you at a time, for coffee, just to kind of get a better understanding and relationship with you. So I'll send out an email if you're interested. Great. And if not, that's fine too.
I would like,
yes,
before
Emily.
we close, I would like to add something. I would very much appreciate it if, as part of our rules of engagement that were set out in the beginning, when we all shook our heads, that not interrupting each other and letting people finish their thoughts be incorporated into that rule of engagement, so that people can have a full opportunity to be able to say what they want to say, even if somebody else in the Zoom room thinks that they know the answers to what's being asked.
So how about if I add "don't interrupt" to the meeting givens?
That would be terrific. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing more, we can adjourn this first meeting. Congratulations, everyone. You actually got a lot done today.
Second meeting.
Second meeting. Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.